Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Regista Football Podcast. My name is Jack, and as always, I'm here joined by my co-host Ben. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Jack. Enjoying the first day back at work.
Oh yeah, it's the Monday after the New Year. This is
Well,
it's funny actually, like 'cause this is the gym day as well.
yep, it's the day that everyone's decided to be healthier. I have made that decision a while ago, but we'll see what happens in 2026. But we're not here to talk about the new year. We're here to talk football.
So we're gonna I'll go over the plan for today's show, guys, and then we'll get straight into it. So we're gonna have a brief chat about the managerial exits that have happened within the last week, really, which is Enzo Maresca of Chelsea and Ruben Amorim of Man United. Then we're going to go over some game reviews: Bournemouth, Arsenal, and Fulham versus Liverpool. We're then going to preview the big game happening this Thursday, Arsenal versus Liverpool at the Emirates. And then to kind of commemorate the fact that we're about to play one another, we're going to review or kind of go over some of the best matches from that specific rivalry or fixture. How does that sound to you, Ben?
I love it.
Brilliant. Okay. Let's talk about the managerial departures then. So the first one was Maresca, and to be honest, that is the one that like kind of surprised me. I know there was some rumblings like a couple of weeks before that there was some tension between the ownership and Maresca, but I never thought it would kind of like what's the term elevate to this so quickly to the point where he actually leaves mutually. And by the way, like misses out on £14 million to leave mutually.
Yeah, I was quite surprised about that. I know that Maresca was, there were shouts of Maresca taking over Pep when Pep leaves. And I
Yeah,
was like, okay, if that's there, I guess that could happen. Definitely has been some surprises in lineup, substitution, things like that from Chelsea in the last few weeks. But it was very surprising that Maresca left in that way. I really didn't think a lot of it when his assistant came up and said, "Oh, he's sick and he's not going to join this post match interview." And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, huh. Well, I guess we're just gonna see Chelsea in the new year, see how they come in, and the next day, Maresca out. It caught me
wild.
by surprise.
I bet he left human as well, and that's probably why he was like quote unquote sick.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
that there was a
nuts.
lot going on behind the scenes that we just don't know
Yeah,
about.
especially with their fucking lunatic ownership. It's funny actually because like I don't know what's next for Chelsea. They're looking at that Liam Rossini guy, the dude that's been managing Strasbourg.
Yep.
Good luck with that. Is all I'm gonna say. Good luck with that. Seems like a promising young coach, but like, do you really want to go down this path again? You know, you've been in a situation again where, to be fair, I thought Maresca, for what it's worth, has been somewhat successful. I know a lot of people look at the money they've spent, but like, look at what they've spent on. They've basically spent on Moneyball projects. Based on that, he's done pretty well with this team overall, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean they're the champions of the world. Come on, Jack. Great team.
How dare I diminish that, that accomplishment? What
Yeah.
a bad person I am. So yeah, that's a surprising one. And then the one that was announced today was Ruben Amorim. That one to me, because of comments he made a couple of days ago, seemed a little bit more likely. Did you see that interview he released?
I did not see the interview. I saw the one right after the match when he was saying that he needs a manager, not a coach. Which
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
kind of what I'm referencing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't see the full interview. I just saw like snippets of it. I need to
Yeah,
go back and watch it through. But I thought it was more a reflection of kind of addressing the interviewer and trying to say that he shouldn't be compared to a person like Maresca more than anything else. But apparently, he's been kind of facing the same thing with the United board and the United owner. So I was
yeah.
definitely surprised by it. I don't know if I was surprised by that he was going to leave. I felt like he was on his way out overall, just with the overall performance in the last,
Mate, since he's fucking been there, he's like,
yeah,
and this is the thing for me, right? So he goes into that interview and he's like, "I came here to be the manager of Manchester United." The differentiation between the two, for any listener that doesn't know, essentially the manager has more of a say on operations. than a quote unquote head coach does. And
Yep.
apparently, the role he's been given as of now, or as of then, quite frankly, now, was a head coach role when he wanted kind of more of a say in the operations. I'll be
Hmm.
honest here, Ruben. You've been dross. Why would we want to give you like a bunch of power? To
Yeah.
me, that doesn't make sense. Like, they're averaging under 2 points per game as Manchester United. At least from
Yeah.
my perspective, that would be unacceptable. And you know what the crazy thing now is? They've spent a bunch of money on building a squad with the idea of playing a three-back formation, right? That's basically what they've done. And now their squad's at a balance. They're basically going to have to get a manager that plays a similar style of football, at least from my perspective. Who do you think they could go for?
I've joked about this. I haven't really looked into it too much. But I always say Ange is out there. Ange is available.
Mate, I like him too much for him to be United manager. That would piss me off, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it was hard for me to continue liking him when he went to Spurs, but I think what they probably need right now, and I honestly I think what both clubs need right now is just someone with a bit more experience, someone who's going to get them back to the basics, like develop something that is sustainable, and then you can go after another project manager.
I think it's got Oliver Glasner written all over it for me.
I was thinking about that, but Oliver, I'd be so sad if Oliver left Palace right now. I could see him. I could see it happening. I have heard shouts about Cesc Fabregas going, and if he goes, I will be forever sad. I do not want Cesc to go to United, and I don't think he would. He'd go to Chelsea over United.
Yeah, I think so too. I guess that's actually a feasible eventual replacement at Chelsea as well. But in terms of United, like I said, not too surprising given the events in the past week, and quite frankly, some poor results, which I think is important to mention as well, or additional poor results. Yeah, don't really care who they end up getting in. In fact, the timing of both these managerial departures have actually kind of been a big favor to Liverpool. That they're probably going to be the team we're competing with for the Champions League places. So
Hmm.
it's actually a pretty convenient thing for Liverpool.
Yeah, it's going to shake up those Champions League positions for those teams who are either struggling to get there or who see the
Yeah,
potential to get there. I know that Sunderland's been doing really good. They've kind of been floating. I'm not saying they're going to get it, but they could get a European spot on promotion.
it's
That'd be pretty
possible.
insane.
Definitely like one of those like Conference League or Europa League spots for sure.
Yeah.
It's possible. Let's move on to the next thing then. So there were some games that happened this past weekend. Like I said previously, we'll get into Bournemouth versus Arsenal and then Fulham Liverpool. Let's get started into Bournemouth versus Arsenal then. So the game ends 3-2. It wasn't a 3-2 game for me. Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was a not a 3-2 game.
No.
I could see a 3-1 game, but not a 3-2 game.
Exactly. Like, at least from my perspective, like 3-2 insinuates like there's a degree of chaos in that
Hmm.
game. And at least from my perspective, the chaos happens on the 10th minute when Gabriel gives up the pass
Yep.
and you guys concede that goal. After that, I don't look at that game particularly chaotic at all.
Yeah, it was in the first few minutes of the game. I loved the tempo. Like Arsenal was controlling the tempo of the
Quick.
game, and it was going so fast. And I just they looked so sharp. I didn't expect that kind of pass to happen. But when I went back and watched, I was like, I guess there were some moments when it seemed kind of erratic and it could get away. And just one of those times and just scuff a ball and it goes directly to Evan Nielsen's feet. And from there, I'd be very surprised if Raya got a foot on it or a hand on it. He was away from the goal. Evan Nielsen
Yeah.
came across. He placed it right past Raya. Good take, but yeah, that first goal in the 10th minute, man, I was watching at the Bluefoot, our Arsenal bar, and you could just hear the air go out of that room. And it was funny because Wolves were still at the bar celebrating their win, and you could hear them all chanting for Bournemouth, and yeah, it was a wild beginning of a game.
It's funny actually because I thought like early on you could see Arsenal's intent in moving it quicker through midfield, and I would
Hmm.
say your midfielders aren't really set up for that. And you could see situations where the ball would come to feet. Bournemouth were pressing really aggressively,
Yep.
especially when midfielders had their back turned and they weren't facing goal. So like basically pressing on the first touch, which is kind of like their identity anyway, to be honest,
Hmm.
Bournemouth. But from my perspective, they created some pretty good turnovers in midfield within that period, and the eventual giveaway by Gabriel paid dividends to that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as soon as Gabriel gave the ball away, I in my mind I
Just
was like, yeah, and the ball went in the net. In my mind, I was like, don't worry, he's gonna make up for it. Was my first thought. Like honestly, I was like, if he gives the ball away, he always has like this redemption moment. And I thought about that. I was like, well, let me think of all the chances that he's given away. I can think of the own goal in versus Fulham in 2022. He let up an own goal, and then right after that went to the other side and then helped and scored. Even earlier in this season against Newcastle, he gave up a pretty awful free header to Waltemata and then went back to the other side and scored. So I was feeling confident, and I'm glad he got that little redemption goal.
yeah, I think it was needed too. But when Arsenal have those set piece situations, at least from my perspective, for me, most of the time, it's just a case of biding your time. You're going to get like some degree of chance that comes from it. Just depends whether you can take them or not.
Yeah, definitely. And apart from set pieces, I also really enjoy just watching a bit more of the open play on the right side. Madueke, his runs up to the touchline, which is actually what got us the first goal,
Yeah.
was
Oh
just great.
man,
Like that run when he went past Truefair, and I know you have Truefair on your fantasy team, and you're like, I gotta drop Truefair after you saw that run, and
he
then
got absolutely roasted, man.
yeah, it was, and then like he just controls the ball all the way through, and then has that little pass into the dangerous spaces and it couldn't get cleared. But some of the fun things I was looking at for Madueke is he had the most successful dribbles. It was only three, but he had the most successful dribbles in the match, most touches in the opposition box, and he was tied with Semenyo for the most ground duels won. So like a really outstanding performance without goals, but still a lot of play creation there.
I think that's like just a testament to the different profiles that you guys have recruited in your forward line.
Mhm.
He's It's funny because like I'm not even saying Saka's bad one on one, but what Saka doesn't have is that like explosive running power that Madueke has.
Mhm.
And when you do say he only had three successful dribbles, they are dribbles where he is like taking on his fullback and hitting the byline. You don't
Mhm.
really see Saka play that type of football very regularly. It's like stand up, beat him, cut inside, and
Mhm.
then produce. It was actually really cool to see. I think Madueke, to me, was, I'm not sure about the whole game, but that first half, man of the match for sure.
Yeah, he was doing really really good in that first half. And then going into the first half, tied, game reset. It's a game of two halves, and in my mind, I was like, we got to come out strong, got to come out quick, got to make a goal very very quickly. Um, and when we came out, like there was more composure and control immediately.
Definitely, yeah.
It was definitely Arsenal was trying to hold on the ball. They were utilizing Gyökeres a little bit more, a little better overall with Gyökeres in hold up play today. And I think the one thing that I really really enjoyed was how many people were on Gyökeres on the next goal. There's a still that I actually got from Reddit where if you scroll down our notes, you can see it like Gyökeres is there with five defenders around him, and then you see the ball at Odegaard's feet, and then like Declan Rice is just like running in, and you're just like, if you look at it, like there's also Nkapie who's like very wide open, no one in
Yeah,
front of him. He could have laid it off to Nkapie if Nkapie was a bit more secured out there, but it was great. Like it was a really great moment to see like Gyökeres has not been scoring. Like there is some work that he's doing out on that pitch, but he's got to get those goals eventually. But speaking of man of the match, I know you mentioned Madueke. Let's talk about our man of the match for this match.
Declan Rice.
Yes, sir.
It's like, it goes without saying, right?
Yep.
First brace in the Premier League, if I'm
Yeah,
correct.
that's right.
I think I think he's taken a step up this year, Declan Rice. I don't think he's what's the term? He's not the most like technically gifted or best on the eye player, but what he has is he has the ability. I mean, a few things, right? I think he is incredible at driving into space with the ball. It almost
Hmm.
reminds me of like a young Steven Gerrard. Long, lengthy stride. Not the quickest, but explosive when they get up to full stride. Really good at bringing the ball out, either from the back, like picking up between the centre backs, taking advantage of like the rest defense from the other side and just bursting past them. I think he's great at that. But I
Mm-hmm.
think something he's started to add, especially within the last, I'd say 9 months, 9 to 10 months, is his kind of late timed runs.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing a way better job at knowing when to make that run into the box for cutbacks, and he's a good finisher. I think he's shown that already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like it's fun to watch him when he has balls, when he has space to get
Yeah,
into spaces, but it's so true. He has those late runs in. He's pure on striking. We've seen
yeah,
that
he's really
in the
good.
past, whether it's from a dead ball or now a moving ball. Like one other thing that I can remember, I don't know if it was last season or the season before, the ball comes to his feet and like maybe 25, 30 yards out against Chelsea, and he just like hits it so purely and he gets right to the back of the net. It was like those are the kinds of like moments that he's built for, and he's in the right space at the right time. Um, he was really good in that second half.
Yeah, like I said, definite man of the match. So like at least from there, you scored the second goal. Who scored that second goal? It was Rice, yeah, from the
It
top
was
of the
Rice.
box.
Yep.
And then you guys make pretty wide sale changes in the forward line. And at least for me, it goes to show the different profiles that you guys have recruited up there for sure. Like for the current forward line that was on, I don't think we touched on that actually. Arsenal started with a forward line of Gyökeres, Martinelli, and Madueke. And I think the purpose of that was to essentially create bring in players that can stretch the play, stretch the
Mm-hmm.
pitch. Like as we touched on initially, I think Arsenal are playing much quicker through midfield to try and exploit space because Bournemouth will give you space for sure. And I think Madueke and to a lesser degree Martinelli did that quite well in the first half. But on what was it, 66, you guys make a triple change, bringing on Gabriel Jesus, Bakara Saka, and Leandro Trossard, which like what depth? Like, there aren't many teams in the league that can do that.
Yeah, when I saw the boards go up and saw those three waiting on the side, I was just like, I live for these moments. I've dreamt of having this kind of depth where at the 66th minute you now bring out even more attacking depth that like what have Bournemouth done to deserve this is what the commentary said, right? So it was just great to kind of see three attackers come in and not just and it wasn't because we talked about this last time. We need to find that goal to kill off the game, and that's what those three came on to do. And so I was really happy to see that we're not going to sit back on a 2-1. We're out here to play a football match and kill this game when we can.
It's funny actually because I didn't look at those subs that way. I looked at those subs as in okay, we're not going to get a bunch of space in behind anymore because we're noticeably playing slower after we go up. Because I think they were bring on the people that typically start for us that we know play a much more side to side shoe horsey like horseshoey game where
Yeah.
we can control the ball in their half and ultimately just kill the game with sterile dominance.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. That's definitely a lot more of them focusing on all the control, but then they have the
Yeah,
skill to get in when they need to.
absolutely.
Like Gyökeres, Gabriel Jesus come in for Gyökeres, and he has been a player who drops back a lot deeper this season and is really making sure that we maintain that control, and then is utilized more as an outlet now than kind of that target man. So yeah, it was just a great way to kind of finish the game. It brought me confidence, and I was happy to see that.
For sure. And I think, when Arsenal were 3-1, I wrote in my notes here that, like, once they were sitting into that mid block and they were letting Bournemouth play, it didn't look like you were going to concede until that absolutely crazy
Hmm.
goal from Krupi.
Yep.
0.02 XG, like, absolutely rifles it from outside the box. And frankly, Raya has no chance.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what a shot. Like when he took that shot, I think I don't know. I just didn't think it was going to go in. And then as soon as it got past Raya, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
that's such a beautiful shot! Like
it's
what
crazy. He
what
hits it
vision?"
so hard.
Yeah.
But it goes 3-2, and there is not one part of me that thinks it goes 3-3. Arsenal at 3-2 look so incredibly comfortable,
Hmm.
knowing that, okay, we're just going to shut up shop here. Again, sterile dominance.
Hmm.
And that was definitely on display within the last few minutes of the game.
Yeah. This is the one game in which I was confident that we were not going to drop a goal at the end.
Yeah.
They were just everyone was just on it. Everyone was out there having a great time and also playing some really good football. Like they had a plan, they executed their plan. There's been some things that could have been chaotic, but at least after the chaos happened, they regained the control. It was a good way to finish that match.
What are your main takeaways from the game overall?
I think I'm excited to see that we are playing the match against our opponent rather than playing the match that we want to play. And what I mean by that is there's been a lot of times when Arteta, whether he hasn't adapted or didn't have the depth to adapt to it, and I think it's maybe a little bit of both. We play the same kind of football versus everyone, but I think in this you really saw Arsenal, and also coming out of the previous few matches, Arsenal adapts. They understand where they can attack and where they need to defend, and I think that was really something that I was excited to see. It makes me excited for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have the squad you do, and I think it's important to remember who didn't make the bench, and there's even more around there. So like
Yep.
super crazy strength and depth, and I think this game shows it. I'd say my main takeaway is with Arsenal, I think you need to kind of I mean, you have to score first. I think that's incredibly important, but you also just cannot let them get too comfortable in your own half.
Hmm.
And ultimately, when you teams let you do that, you strangle the life out of the game. And
Hmm.
Bournemouth definitely succumbed to some Arsenal strangling. Cool. So that is Bournemouth Arsenal. Good win for Arsenal. We're going to move on to Fulham Liverpool here. I want to add a note before I talk about the game. And my overall kind of overview of that game is Liverpool have swapped intensity for control, and it's created a scenario where in big stretches of games, absolutely nothing happens. We don't pass forward and we don't take shots at goal. During that whole of that game against Fulham, we have two fucking shots on target. So do they, by the way, and it ends 2-2, so it goes to show what type of game that was. A team that was previously praised for mentality and bravery are now way too scared to take risks. And I think there's a few reasons for that, and we'll probably go into them a bit later. But let's touch on the game first. So one of the craziest things about this game was no Ekatike.
Hmm.
Ekatike apparently sustained a little bit of a hamstring niggle in the game previously, and so they decided to play it safe and sit him out. So Gakpo is playing up front. I'd say talking about injuries, Fulham were massively rocked with injuries as well. I think from what I remember, they had 7 players out. Probably 5 of those players you could consider first teamers. And Awobi wasn't there. He's out with Nigeria, same as Calvin Bassey, so they don't have some of their starters as well. And a
Hmm.
big notable thing here is Verts kind of started centrally. He was drifting to the left a lot, but he was starting ultimately centrally, which was something that was different. I'd say Liverpool in that first half were, I mean, ultimately pedestrian. It's really the best way I could describe it. We create some openings. Gakpo has an early chance with a really nice driven through ball by Curtis Jones, but it's kind of like a half chance. It's not a particularly great chance. I think the XG on that was 0.11. So decent chance, not great. Um, Something I noticed as well is Liverpool were building more regularly with a pivot in that game, as opposed to having one of the anchor men come up and one of the other ones kind of go forward and try and occupy someone on the front line. I think that was important to note. I would say too, Liverpool's out of possession structure at the moment is incredibly frustrating me because I mean you've watched them, Ben, right?
Hmm.
Like they the way they press is like I don't feel they're pressing as a unit. It's like singular presses that go
Yep.
to challenge the ball character carrier, and the guys that are supposed to back him up behind him leave what spot they're in about three
Hmm.
seconds too late.
Yep.
So the guy who is inside the block gets open, and they just play like a simple ball through our first line into the second phase, and it's happened consistently. And to me, that just shows like a lack of cohesion in the pressing structure.
Yeah, I think the pressing, the man pressing, it just doesn't make sense. You're not going to. I mean, football is really about overloads and spaces overloads, and pressing is an overload that you're doing, right? And so you
Yeah,
are kind of leaving negative space when you're not pressing together as a team,
agree.
and that creates space for the attacking team to then move into that space. And if you figure that out, you know where the press is going to come from. You just put the ball into the space that you know that there's going to be no one, and you have your own attacker get into that space. And you see that happening often throughout the game, but specifically in those spaces where in the midfield where you need to have a dominance and be able to like choke out the ball.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from, at least from my perspective, football. The modern football is quite a simple game because we're going to go into like some tactical nerdy stuff here, but positional football is actually quite basic. You're in the same position you are generally from when you have the ball versus not having the ball. Essentially, like promoting rest defense and creating rest defense. The idea of a rest defense is so people cannot play through what I describe as a central block. That's how football is played now. You don't mind possession out wide typically because the angle to the goal typically is central. So you don't mind people out wide. Actively pressing, allowing players to play into your block, the pressing is hurting you in that case. Like, it's not a benefit to the team. Yes, what you're probably doing by pressing, especially from Liverpool's perspective, which I think is important, what Liverpool don't do regularly is we've struggled with those long bombs that are like hit by goalkeepers or centre backs. If that
Mhm.
guy has no pressure on him, he can put that long ball into your area as accurately as he wants to. So at the very least, that has to have some sort of pressure on him. But ultimately, if you're pressing nonsensically and you're opening up spots in the middle of the block,
Mhm.
you're just hurting us. You may as well just fall straight back to that mid block. At least from my perspective, either press properly or don't press at all.
Yeah, yeah. You either you just kind of maintain and you just cover your spaces, or you press. And it seems like they
Yeah,
don't have clear direction on what to do right now.
no, and it looks like I think it's a lot of players that don't quite have faith in that pressing structure, and you see, like if you even watch them, you'll see some players go. They'll look around, see no one else is gone, and don't go anymore. So it's almost like, oh, okay, no one else is going. I'm not going to go, and then someone goes sometimes, and then other players go other times. To me, it looks like a press from Ruben Amorim. Absolutely shit. So there's that. Liverpool, we were okay for a bit in that first half until Wilson runs off the back of Gravenberch. Konate doesn't pick up his runner. Wilson goes through one-on-one and really nice finish, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah.
Full credit to Wilson. I think Wilson is also like a very, very good ball striker.
Hmm.
Sets it back past Kanate. Actually, initially gets given as offside, if I remember. VR reviews it. It was onside. So Liverpool then are 1-0 down. And even from 1-0 down in that half, Liverpool don't really do a lot, at least from my perspective, until kind of Jones. No, it's actually Verts. He wins the ball up high, slides it through to Jones, where he has like
Mm.
a decent opportunity with one more action to either slide someone through or take a shot from like the mid to upper box, and he doesn't do it. He just miscues it.
Yeah.
And then a couple of minutes later, Gakpo has a headed opportunity from across from Sabozlai and he hits the bar. So we're at least at that point kind of creating chances. They're not shots on target typically, but we're in dangerous areas, doing things that are more conducive to scoring goals. Really, from 40 minutes onwards in that first half, they don't look like they're going to do anything. They may as well shut up shop on 40 minutes and say we're going to take halftime now. I would say my thoughts after that first half was a little bit just bit frustrated. I'll be honest, right? So I don't mind the idea of a Liverpool team going away from home, really against anyone in the Premier League, and just saying, "Hey, we're kind of happy with 0-0 at halftime. Like that's not
Hmm.
the end of the world, right?" But ultimately, when I see that away and I see that at home, you got to get me up for something, guys. Like if I know all of these games are just going to be a slog, I'm not watching Liverpool isn't particularly exciting, and that's not what we're in it for. We get into the second half then, and we hit the bar again via Alexis McAllister on the fifth. second minute, and Liverpool start to look way better and more aggressive pressing.
Hmm.
Were you watching this game, or was it like before or after something you were doing?
No, I was, it was, I was watching the first half, and then I kind of like was bored, to be honest with you, and I
It was a
caught the
terrible game.
second end of the second half. So I felt like I missed some of the build up action in the middle of the game.
Okay.
But I want to ask you, what do you think changed? Like, what happened in the changing room? What do you think tactically they were doing differently in that second half, at least the beginning of it, to kind of get more opportunities?
I think it isn't much of a tactical switch versus more of a intensity switch. Players start going, start trusting the press a bit more, start putting some more pressure on Fulham's backline. I would say actually, like credit to Fulham. Fulham play decent football. Like they're not hoofing it long constantly. They're somewhat consistently playing out from the back, and that's kind of why in situations like that I want to see Liverpool press properly. And in the second half, I think it's just an improvement on intensity ultimately. Liverpool getting around the ball much easier, not letting ball players have a bunch of time and space to, you know, penetrate the lines with the ball. And I think ultimately that happens, and we start to get a bit of a foothold in the game. Um, on the 57th minute, Vert scores an offside goal that miraculously gets given for Liverpool. And it's funny actually because I've seen a bunch of you know people saying it's offside, it's offside. Yes, I've not seen an angle of that goal that suggests it's onside to me.
Yeah.
But what Dermot Gallagher said on Sky, essentially, and I'm curious to hear if you've actually heard about this. Apparently, in the Premier League, there is a 5 centimeter rule, which is
Yeah.
almost what they look at as forgiveness,
Yeah,
right?
I have heard about this, and I only heard about this earlier today when I
Yes,
was just, reviewing the game again, and I heard about the 5 centimeter rule. And in my mind, I think about all the times when
mate.
this 5 centimeter rule has not applied
Yeah,
before we had this VAR, the automated VAR system, right? The automatic.
exactly.
And it is like all of a sudden we have this 5 centimeter rule, and like why do we just know about this now? Like how is
I
this
know.
not explained at the beginning of the season? Yes, because the technology isn't quite there, we have this 5 centimeter rule. Also, why is this 5 centimeter rule not applied? Why are we looking at planes in every other competition, but we don't look at a plane in the
Yeah,
Premier League?
I actually completely agree with you. And one other thing, by the way, I have seen many offsides not being given credit to that 5 centimeter rule. Like things
Yep.
where like people are almost even at the start, like during this season,
Hmm.
and they are given as offside. Where was that 5 centimeters then?
Yeah.
Like it, I think they're just quite frankly pulling it out of their ass as they go along. Like
Yeah.
someone will have a complaint about either the technology or the process, and they'll try and find an excuse to kind of what's the term? Say, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. There's actually a reason for it. It's
Yeah.
wild. Either way, Liverpool benefit from it this time, thank fuck, and we go 1-1. What I notice immediately is Fulham start to play way more aggressively when we equalize.
Hmm.
They push us back a bit to where Liverpool are in that notorious shit mid block,
Hmm.
playing the ball around. They don't really threaten us too much, to be honest. There is one moment in that half. Actually, I'll actually say this: when it's 1-1, from a Liverpool perspective, then I'm looking at that game being like, yeah, man, let's go on and win this stuff.
Hmm.
Like, let's go on and win. Then he takes our fucking goal scorer off.
Yeah.
Like he takes arguably the most creative player we have on the pitch off, and it's like, oh, okay then. So what's our plan to score now? Because I've not seen anything to suggest that we have a plan to score so far. Needless to say, what ends up happening is Kunate kind of lets Jimenez kind of get in behind. I'd say he manages to like put him off enough to allow Allison to come out, and then Wilson hits the bar with like a crazy looking strike. Really late. Gakpo does the Richarlison, and he gets a goal, takes his top off. Delighted. Obviously, I am like pretty fucking happy at this point. I've seen a
Yeah.
team that is like obviously lacking in mentality
Hmm.
come back from 1-0 down to win 2-1 when the whole of the season that seemed like something that was impossible. I see
Yep.
them do it. Goes 2-1 up, and I'm like, okay, we've got a minute and a half.
Yep.
Surely they can keep it out for a minute and a half. They
Yep.
get a throw in. Um, get a throw in. Throw it to Harrison Reed, and I can tell. I know what Liverpool are expecting there, and I would expect the same thing. There's two scenarios, and I think this is important to mention. Liverpool have been bombarded with crosses from any angle around their box this season. So naturally, they're expecting a cross because teams identify the fact that it's a weakness.
Hmm.
Number two, guys, you want that fucker to shoot from there. You're begging
Yeah.
for him to shoot from there because I think managers are willing to play that chance. And quite frankly, it's one of the most unstoppable strikes I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, even if Allison was in front of it, he's not saving that. I think it would kill him.
Yeah. That ball was moving up, down, left, right. It was such a beautiful strike. And then it also hits the top corner. It is incredible how well he hit that ball. And before that, I was really like, you know what? Krupi had the best goal of this weekend, and I can't be mad that he had that goal. And then that happened. I was like, oh my gosh, I would be so furious, but also kind of in awe if I was
Mate,
a Liverpool supporter.
it's one of those things where you're like, well, we think we're about to win the game, but you can't help just say, fucking fair enough,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what the hell can you do about that?
yeah,
And that's the beauty of the game we love,
yeah.
like moments of insanity that make everyone excited and ultimately create not just talking points but memories for people. And that's something Fulham fans are probably never going to forget. And Harrison Reed almost definitely won't forget it because he ain't doing that shit again.
Yeah, it's
Um,
gonna be in his highlight reels.
well, I mean, dude, I'm gonna end up seeing that fucking clip over and over again as well. So that's always lovely. Liverpool then draw 2-2. After, well, at least from my perspective, we're going on to win that game. So we draw 2-2. Obviously, people are gutted, but Anna, I'm telling you now, if you look that dejected in post-match press conferences, it rubs off on everyone, bro. I need some hope too.
Hmm.
So when you're like, I can see how dejected you are because you think you're about to win. But you just look absolutely crushed by it. Like he acts in a very sad, almost defeated way. We can't be
Hmm.
having that. I understand it from like a human level, but your role as Liverpool manager is to, even in hard times, be that like beacon of hope. You need to be the one that breeds hope into the fan base and ultimately, and more importantly, breeds hope into the players that are struggling on the pitch.
Hmm.
Reacting that way after a press conference, I'm personally not a fan of it. I understand it from the human level, but I really don't want to see that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think coming off a game like that, when you concede, then you think you have the win, and then you lose in a way that is just, I don't know. You didn't lose because you had a poor defensive error. You lost because someone else had a brilliant goal. It just does really feel like all the chips are against you at this point.
But then, like, we also lost because we had two shots on target.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
but
Yeah.
that's the issue. So, like, when you're playing these super fine margins games, that there are things that are going to happen, moments of brilliance, because that's essentially what you're relying on too with these super fine margin games
Yeah.
that go against you. And we saw that there as an example. There's a few things I'd like to talk on with Liverpool, actually. Kind of that post game. I've seen a lot online about kind of Liverpool's recruitment in the summer, how much of that is on honest lot. There, something I want to say really is Liverpool knew exactly what they were getting into here. There's no way that they didn't see the state of the squad at the
Hmm.
start of the summer and said we're short on a few players. And let me
Hmm.
elaborate on why that is. So goalkeeper, we're actually in a really good spot with goalkeeper. I'd say on right back, we're in a decent spot. It's looked way worse at parts this season because both of our primary right backs have been injured, so we've had to play a midfielder there. But ultimately, you have two options for that position. It's not too bad. I
Hmm.
don't know how they can look at the centre back situation and think it's acceptable. I understand that they try to get in Mark Gahey like late in the window. Why the
Hmm.
fuck wasn't that sealed up when you definitely had no options there? Even when you sell Kwanzaa, why isn't that like one of the top things on your mind?
Hmm.
It's not. So they go into the season with obviously the number one, which is a Van Dyke. They then go into kind of like the number two, which is Konate, but could be debatable, right?
Hmm.
Then, as backup to him, you have Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez hasn't made more than 15 senior appearances in the league for several fucking years. So, like, to say he is going to be your third choice option is fucking mad to me. And then you've got a child, quite frankly, who, if you think that he is good enough at this moment, fine. I understand why you've done that. But ultimately, it's not a surefire thing that that works out either. He's a kid. So
Yeah.
you know what situation you're in at centre back, and they do it anyway. For me, it's not the idea of, oh, we're unlucky. No, there's no luck that's involved here. You fucking saw that situation coming. You saw
Hmm.
it. Let's move on a bit. So as of right now, we have no forwards, so we're playing all of our fucking midfielders. So if you
Yeah.
look at what's on the bench to come on in midfield, there's nothing really there. I think there are situations where you could probably hold one back and then we have one midfield sub. But like what you've actively done through neglecting the attack, which I'll get on in a minute, has actively hurt the midfield. Let's look at the attack then. So, what happens to Diogo Jota has to be remembered.
Hmm.
We lose a forward there under like tragic circumstances. You then sell Darwin Nunes, which I look at from a like a player perspective. I completely understand why they decide to do make that decision. I'd have done the same thing. And you sell Luis Diaz at the time. Yes, I agree with you selling Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz, by all accounts, wanted to leave Liverpool because I think he felt he was somewhat disrespected based on how much he was being paid and the fact that Liverpool didn't really offer like a pay increase. He
Hmm.
goes to Bayern for good money, like really good money. So what we do then is we bring in Hugo Ekitike, which is a central striker. We then find a solution to finally sign Isaac on the last day of the window. Here's the scenario here. AFCON is coming in January. So you know that Mohamed Salah is going to be out for an extended period of time around that area. Don't don't give a fuck about getting anyone for that type of area. Not a chance. Left side, you have Gakpo, who at the best of times should be our fifth choice forward. He
Hmm.
should be. You've got Gakpo there starting game in, game out because you have no other option. And when people, what they said at the start of the summer is they were fearful that by signing another left sided option, they would be like hurting Rio and Guma's growth. That guy doesn't play a fucking game. So it's like, what are you talking about here? If he's not actively playing a game, then what is you can't actually make that statement. The statement is void by the fact that you're not willing to select him. And the same goes for Chiesa. That manager knew, or like the manager knew, the club knew at the start of the season, those two players were not good enough to be considered starters for Liverpool. So what you've decided to do then, if you basically decided to go into the season with four first choice forwards, one of them knowing, actually, this is how it gets even more wild. One of them knowing he's not going to be around in January for a couple of months, probably.
Hmm.
The other one, didn't have a preseason and is going to have to take some time to kind of ramp up and get their fitness. The other one is completely new to the country and could have taken time to adapt. You've gone in like completely unequipped.
Yeah. Yeah, it does feel like there were clear signs that there was going to be a struggle, especially when you do let go of someone like Luis Diaz, and obviously after, I mean, you cannot account for the tragedy of Diego Jota, but like there is time still to move quickly, to find a solution to strengthen up those wings, and it just seems like it's been a lost opportunity, and they're really paying for it now.
Definitely, like, and I'll tell you this: I'm not seeing much shit coming out about signing players
Yeah.
this January transfer window. So they must have some degree of plan to say we're going to spend money in January. But the fucking audacity to think, oh, we'll be all right with these players, to go from the summer to next summer, it's either, as Neil Atkinson said, it's either sheer ignorance or ineptitude, and none of them belong at Liverpool. None of them do. Yeah, that's kind of where we are, really. What happens for the rest of the season? It's difficult. I don't see it getting any better without improving profiles in the squad. That is like one of the biggest, well, that is for me, number one issue we have. We lack several profiles in the squad that is needed if we want to play a type of football like the manager wants to play. So there is that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, you do have someone coming back. You do have something happening. And I know that earlier in the season, there was a lot of talk about Mo Salah not really matching Arna's new style of play. And now that Mo is at AFCON, I don't really see a lot of different style of play that is different from what they were doing before. If you can't make any significant changes, any significant signings, whether it's wingers, refs, and midfielders, like what does Arna have to do with the current team to maintain pace with the rest of the league?
And don't you think that's the problem? Because if the issue is personnel, the best way to fix it is personnel. The reason why they've decided to go this way, it comes from like I said in a couple episodes prior, it's just stopping the rot. They
Mhm.
essentially figured that if we can either control the ball for long periods of time without taking a bunch of risks, or be behind the ball, not taking a bunch of risks, we're going to concede fewer goals. That has been the case so far. I can't
Mhm.
deny that. But where are the green shoots here? There are no green shoots. I don't see like a style of play being developed whatsoever. Even as we've started winning, most of the goals we're getting out are out of a good example I can give you. When you see Frimpong come on the pitch, he is obviously the type of profile that 11 is lacking completely. He's
Mhm.
quick and he can stand people up 1v1. It's why the guy's had 3 assists since he's been back. Because he stands people up, he puts the ball in the box, and thankfully at those times there have been people in the box to finish. But same as Kirkes, how the hell is that guy supposed to cross early when there's not a person in the box? It's not
Mhm.
going to happen, is it? So you're playing it side by side, side by side. The game has gotten naturally a bit more condensed because I think the way they're looking to play ultimately is very slow, ponderous passes from one midfielder to the other, essentially just trying to promote that sterile domination. I
Mhm.
like that term because it's apt for this.
Yeah.
But they're not creating consistent chances. Like I said, they have two shots on target. I understand that they hit the post twice, but it's unlucky. It's not.
Yeah.
They're not. Those chances aren't being created out of me saying, that's an honest slot Liverpool goal.
Yeah.
It's not. So we are where we are.
Yeah.
We miss
I will
Mo.
say, listeners. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to. Go ahead.
We miss Mo. That's for sure. He was scapegoated at times this season, at least for me. Was he playing to the best of his ability? Absolutely not. None of them were. So I'm not sure why he was the one actively being scapegoated for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of areas that people have not really looked too deeply into
Yeah.
because how good Liverpool have been in the last few years, and you won. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of things to look about. And listeners, this is Jack being tame about his about Liverpool. So there's definitely a lot of other conversations we've had where he hasn't been as tame. But Jack, let's go look at the positives. What are the plus sides for what's going on?
There are positives to take from the most miserable unbeaten run ever. Month or two ago, we'd have probably lost that game once we went 1-0 down. The team
Hmm.
found their way to get back into the game and be close to win it. Sucker punch at the end is what it is. Again, they came back from 1-0 down. Like I said, it's been one of the biggest roadblocks. If as soon as they face adversity, they have crumbled in the last few weeks. They're showing kind of more. What's the term? They've showed more. What's the term? I can't really explain it, but it's more, at least from my perspective, it's more the ability to fight back from those negative situations that the
Hmm.
team is ultimately in their heads about consistently. You can see it the way they defend crosses. You could see it the way that they defend goal kicks. They are in their head thinking of the worst possible scenario. And to see them come back from 1-0 down was good for me. Those really is what I would say about the plus sides.
Okay. I feel like if you can dig it out and maybe it's grit, right? If you have that grit and maybe not necessarily belief, but you can just dig it out. I think that is a good thing that can help you continue driving forward. And you're right, they have won the last 9 matches in all competitions, so they have it in them. I think it's just continuing through that. And I think the plus sides that I see for Liverpool is yes, Mo Salah's going to be back soon. And
Yeah.
apart from that, I think once you have him back and you're able to maybe have a bit more areas to release runners and maybe stretch that game a little faster, you can get back to your winning ways, and you will be a threat again.
So the way I see this league season going for Liverpool is one of two ways. One, if we make signings in January with the correct profiles to fix the problems we have, we can have a good second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That's possible. We can start to find an attacking identity and make the football way more exciting to watch. Like build on top of that attacking philosophy ultimately to end the season and we go into next season well. Or we could decide, which I think what the club is probably going to do, that the club decides to not sign anyone and we address everything in the summer. And if that's the case, at least from my perspective, I think we'll come top four. I do.
Yeah.
Fourth last year was Chelsea, and they did it on 68 points. I think we get 68 points. I think a statistic I heard earlier is they only won 8 away games last
Mm-hmm.
season. So it goes to show to get fourth, you don't need to be great,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Liverpool will be just about good enough to do that. Yeah. So that's Liverpool, guys. Let's get into the preview, the big game on Thursday at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal face Liverpool. What I mean, getting starting it, I've seen your club and your fans are taking it incredibly seriously. Have you seen some of that, like the tifo stuff that they've prepared and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot about kind of bringing this game home and making a big environment. Like when we do that, like you have the 12th man, right? When the crowd's
Yeah,
the 12th man, it brings so much more energy to the players, and I think that's going to be huge. I haven't seen any images of any specific tifos. I kind of don't want to. I loved watching the tifo come up. Oh, what match was that? Uh, the Invincibles tifo, or I guess it was like a yeah. Oh no, is Bayern.
yeah,
Having
it
that
was
tifo
great.
come up and just seeing that, it was a moment. It was like this is the coolest thing ever. So
I
I'm trying
preferred
to
the one against
avoid.
Paris.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure you did. I just blocked that out of my memory. Yeah, I'm excited to see what that looks like. Uh, I think it's gonna be good energy. I think we are riding high with the 5 wins in a row. And it's gonna be a fun game to watch
I
for
think you
me.
guys. I mean, hey, like I understand the confidence here. I do. You came to Anfield very confident, and we both stunk out the gaff.
Yeah,
This could happen again, man. I'm serious.
yeah.
The way, and I'll be honest with you, I would happily have that game. This is not the time, Liverpool, to start developing attacking identity.
Hmm.
Stink out the gaff. Like, at least from my perspective, the way I want to see the game going, and I think something from at least the what's the term? The conservative part of my mind is like you can't get battered here. I would really prefer that we didn't.
Hmm.
If we do, I think it's a bit of a downer after. I mean, it would mean we go to 10 unbeaten. That would be a plus side, but I think it would definitely kind of downtrend the morale if we get battered here. I
Hmm.
think, at least from Liverpool's perspective, I'm expecting Ekatike to start for this game. He should be fit. Leaving him out against Fulham was more of a precaution. I understand why they're doing it because we have one striker. From my perspective, I would like to see Frimpong start as well. I don't know what that would mean they'd need to do with the forward on the right side, but I'd like them to figure it out. I think Frimpong starting kind of just gives us some more pace. I think we're going to have to be embracing of the transition in this game. Like, that's how we're going to need to attack Arsenal. And that kind of comes from my perspective, them being like the willing, passive, out of possession team in this game.
Hmm.
I think they're going to expect Arsenal to want to dominate the ball, especially in our half. And we just need to kind of dig in and being passive in that case is fine. The way I look at Arsenal is like if you don't give them anything, they could struggle to break you down. But if you give them an inch, they're capable of taking a mile. Um, and do you know what I mean by that? Like, if you set up resolutely and like essentially low block and stop them from scoring, we saw it
Oh
with
yeah,
City earlier in the year. But if you open up and you give them enough space in behind, when Arsenal have space in behind, they still hurt you.
yeah.
And it gets shown time and time again. When you get like big leads on people, it happened against Villa.
Hmm.
Once the teams have to start coming out to try and kind of claw the game back, it's when Arsenal punish people and exploit space in behind. So I
Yeah, and
think,
even against Wolves, like when they sat back, Arsenal, who should have obviously won that game, just could not really get in behind, and they couldn't make the decisive passes. They couldn't
yeah,
break them down, and so yeah, that's definitely the right way to go to defend against Arsenal.
but and like when we go back to this, if we look at kind of Liverpool in a similar situation that City were coming into the Emirates last year, do you remember that game?
Yep.
It was really close for a bit.
Hmm.
Uh, City, you go 1-0 up, if I remember, and then City end up equalizing through Haaland. But
Yep.
you guys get two really jammy, deflected goals, and then you batter them.
Yep.
Once you get that lead, you just foot on their throat and just murdering them. I don't want that to happen to Liverpool. Keep it tight. Um, Embrace the counter attack, and ultimately, you're playing a side who want to control the ball. Um,
Hmm.
Not hit Liverpool long a lot. I don't think they're going to be doing that a lot, or consistently try and attack us on the counter. I don't think they're going to do that a lot either. So I think from my perspective, that's how we need to approach this game. How are you kind of feeling about it from the Arsenal perspective?
Yeah. From the Arsenal perspective, I'm feeling okay about this game. I think anytime we do go against the Big Six, even if we're at home, I'm gonna have apprehensions. I think I expect us to have an okay run, but in this fixture, it's kind of even. Arsenal have since the Premier League, it's Arsenal have won three, drawn five, lost four, and at home it's been 3-1-2. So we're really, we win more at home, but really it could go any way overall. There's
Yeah,
some things that kind of make me nervous about the game, and that's more defensively. Even though we have Gabriel back and we have kind of our general three back starters, we don't have Calafiori, and I would prefer having someone like Calafiori than that back line. I think Frimpong on Nkapie makes me a little nervous. So but I feel like we'll be okay overall. What One thing that does make me feel confident about this match at home is we didn't have some players available in that reverse fixture.
yeah,
Saka was not in that game; he was injured. We lost Saliba in the 5th minute at Anfield to an injury, and then Odegaard didn't start. He came in on the 70th, and also Odegaard just wasn't playing the way that he is playing right now. And so I do expect to see at least four changes to the lineup from the reverse fixture. Trossard also didn't start that game. He came on. Martinelli started that game. So I expect Trossard to start. I expect Odegaard to start, Saka to start, and obviously I'm expecting Saliba to stay on the entire time. So I think I'm feeling okay about that and having kind of that structure of control as we talked about with Trossard and Saka
yeah.
on there. So we'll see how that works. I think I'm feeling pretty confident, but I'm not gonna come in and say, oh, we're gonna win this game.
Martinelli scored a few goals against us.
He has,
He
yes,
really
he has
has.
scored a couple of goals.
So like from my perspective, so if we do play Frimpong, I'm not sure if he's going to be a right back or right wing. You might actually end up seeing Connor Bradley at right back and then
Yep.
Frimpong at right wing, which
Hmm.
possession essentially creates two right backs for the most
Yeah.
part.
Well, that's what you did against Leeds, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. You're right. So I don't know. I think Martinelli has caused us some problems in the past, but I think if it is that type of tight, cagey game, I think Trossard is the type of player that you kind of just want to find an inch in the box and
Hmm.
get you a shot on goal. So I think both of them would work here, but I could see why you would be way more confident given the idea that the kind of like more senior or what you describe as like bona fide starters would be playing in this game. What are your keys to victory? What do you think? What are like the main points you would say how Arsenal leave the Emirates with a win?
Yeah. I've kind of two main keys. I think like defensive fortitude is a big one. Assuming Ekatike is fit and he's back, I don't want to see him run with the ball or run onto the ball. Like need to make sure we close him down. Need to suffocate like Wirt's movement when
Yeah,
Wirt's like, and it's gonna be hard because he's so good. Like the ball sticks to his foot, so just make sure that we suffocate his movement, get the ball off of him. I don't know, just pick like force the play into the wide areas and pick up the ball in half spaces as much as we can. And it's going to be kind of. I'm interested to see how well Arsenal does defend because right now Liverpool has the most touches in the league and the attacking third.
yeah,
So like you're comfortable being up there. You're comfortable keeping the ball up there, and Arsenal I think needs to make sure that we take the ball away and control it as quickly as we can. Um, and then my other major key to victory is an early goal,
yeah,
like that
man.
lightning tempo that we had the first 10 minutes against Bournemouth, without the error. What we did at the beginning of the second half of Villa, what we did at the beginning of the second half, even at Bournemouth, would be fantastic. And I think really overloading that midfield with wingers coming up rather than Zubimendi would also help out overall. I know Zubimendi likes to come up from that DM position, but if there's ways that we can work on that overload and then stretch play, but condense the play, get the ball, and then use the speed of our wingers and the quick tempo to get through an early goal. That
Yeah,
really is what I'm thinking are keys to Arsenal victory. What do you see? What do you think about that actually before we go into
yeah,
Liverpool?
yeah. I think kind of I agree with a lot of it. It's funny, isn't it? Because I think a lot of the reason you start really quickly against Bournemouth, um, is because of that like change in like small tweak in tactical identity. Like we're going to play it through midfield much quicker to try and exploit space in behind. I actually don't see you trying to do this with Liverpool. I see you really wanting to bring the game to Liverpool. What I would say actually is like in so many, even at Anfield, like within the last few years against us, you guys start incredibly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like really aggressive press, super high up, like trying to strangle us really quickly. And we start really slowly. We're notoriously bad at starting games. That's why we typically go 1-0 down a lot. So I think I definitely agree with the idea of like lightning tempo into these quickly. That's one of my keys to victory as well from Liverpool's perspective is do
Okay.
not concede early.
Mm-hmm.
If you concede early against this Arsenal team, you're not going to touch the ball very much. You can't
Mm-hmm.
have that happen. I would say though, like in a game like this, even like Liverpool being one goal down at 60, I'm not that sad about it.
Yeah.
I would 100% take a draw in this game. I would
Mm-hmm.
take a draw last year too.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is the type of game where you against your title rivals or against like the teams that typically finish high in the table. I don't care about winning away at those grounds. You don't need to ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be happy with a draw. In terms of the other stuff you have there, I think Vertz's movement is really important. Vertz finds space pretty much across the whole of that attack in third. Like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you'll show up on the right, sometimes you'll show up on the left, sometimes you'll show up kind of right in zone 14, kind of depending on where he can kind of like find space and interpret where the ball's going to go. He's typically quite good at that. I think
Mm-hmm.
like I do think you guys are going to be very aggressive. And again, the way of doing it really is stop him from facing the goal. Like
Yeah.
don't be so passive to where you let him turn on the ball. Like make sure as soon as he
Mm-hmm.
receives the ball to feet, someone is up his ass.
Yeah.
And I think you guys are definitely going to approach him that way. That's how Fulham played him as well. Very very aggressive early on. And then what was the other one? Ekatike too. I'll be honest with you. I don't think so. I think your centre backs are amazing, like in
Mm-hmm.
structure. When your centre backs have to defend space, I don't
Yep.
think they're particularly great one-on-one defenders.
Yeah. I
And
agree with that.
Ekatike is a super dynamic ball carrier.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be I I think that could be like definitely a part of danger from your perspective. So I completely understand why you would put that. My counterpoint to that is I don't think Ekatike can do that on his own. I think it's going to need to be a situation where he has second man runs.
Yeah.
Like I think he needs to have that, and that ultimately that's something Liverpool have been lacking.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I agree with all of your points. I think the early goal is incredibly important. I think stopping Vert's playing is very important as well. And I think you guys are definitely going to approach that from a game plan perspective.
Yeah.
In terms of Liverpool's key to victory, then, first and foremost, like I said, do not concede early. Make sure that, or if you do, you keep it at one. Don't let them get a cushion on you. Keep it tight consistently. Make it a one goal game at most. I think that's very important. Second thing is defend set pieces well.
Mm-hmm.
We're typically really good at the first ball. We have like the most aerially dominant player in the world, basically, in Van Dijk.
Mm-hmm.
That's not our problem ultimately from set pieces. Like a lot of it comes down to the bounces around and the second balls. And I would say the way you guys approach set pieces, you're looking for that chaos in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, like you don't mind if Gabriel doesn't header it into the goal because it's gonna hit his shoulder and bounce down in front of Gabriel, and someone
Yeah.
else is gonna end up rifle it in. Like that's literally what you guys are looking for with the way you approach corners.
Yeah.
Super deep, high, loopy under the goal mouth. So Liverpool have to deal with that. I really want to see Alisson Becker claim more crosses in this game. I think
Mm-hmm.
for us to be able to do this properly, he has to. So yeah, defend set pieces well. Do not concede early. Embrace the counter attack in this game. Put the fastest players you have on the pitch. Be very brave when you play into midfield when you're trying to build out, and play quickly over the top. Like try and exploit what high line they have.
Mm-hmm.
The unique thing about your defense is you typically, I wouldn't say you have fullbacks that bomb forward.
Nope.
Like you don't consistently have fullbacks that are like super high up the pitch in terms of like offensive structure. So generally I'd just say exploit fullback depth. But what you can do is you can exploit the space in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they need to do. They need to use the channels properly, and they
Yeah.
need to be able to play into the middle once they're kind of approaching that final third to actually try and create shot creating actions. And ultimately, that goes down to do not let Arsenal get back into shape before decisive actions are performed. Play quickly. You know you're not going to have much of the ball in this game. So if you play quickly, you have more of a chance in catching them out.
I have this nightmare slash like it's not a daydream, it's a day nightmare where I just imagine Frimpong picking up the ball and just like exploding through with the ball, and then he's gonna find someone in the box because no one's gonna keep up with him, and I just see that happening over and over in my head. I don't want to breathe it into life. I don't want to like I don't want to actually make that happen, but I that's it just haunts me. It's all I see.
Yeah. I mean, that is going to have to be the way home for Liverpool, Ben. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to need him to stand up crosses into the box, put the ball in along the floor early, make use of those channels, because that's, I think, where Arsenal's shape is the easiest to exploit,
Yeah.
and kind of do it that way. What's your prediction for this game?
I don't think we're going to keep a clean sheet. I think it's going to be 3-1.
3-1.
Yeah.
Who do you think your scorers?
I think Trossard's going to have one in him. I think Martin Odegaard's going to have one in him in this one. And Bukayo Saka is going to finally figure out how to shoot a ball.
Okay, so 3-1 from Ben. My head says 2-1 Arsenal. My heart says 1-1. I'm going to go with
Okay.
1-1 because fuck my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
I think Cody Gakpo is the scorer for us, and I think it's a shit scrappy goal. And I think the scorer for you is Declan Rice.
That'd be nice.
I think he arrives in the box late, gets some shittery with the deflection,
Mm-hmm.
or finishes it really well. But I think I'm gonna go with 1-1. I think, like I said, head probably says 2-1. I don't think we win this game for sure. But I'd be happy with the draw, so I'm gonna go with 1-1.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I would be okay with a draw. I wouldn't be happy with it, but I'd be okay with a draw. I'm excited for this game. I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
I mean, I think it's important too. Like, this on paper is one of your hardest fixtures left.
Oh, yeah.
So, you have a 6 point gap at the top. A draw here isn't the end of the world either from your guys' perspective.
Yeah, we have this, and then our next hardest match is going to be I want to say North London Derby away, and then after that we have City away.
That's a hard match, North London Derby. Okay, let's get into the last segment of the show here. We're going to go over best Arsenal versus Liverpool matches. So the way we've done that is we've picked a couple from the most recent history within the last few years, and then we've picked a historical one as well. The way we're going to do this, Ben, and the way I want to do this is you pick one from recent, I pick one from recent, then one from history, and then the other recent one. How does that sound?
Yeah, I like that one.
Cool. So, what's your first favorite recent game between Liverpool and Arsenal?
First favorite recent history game is same fixture, Arsenal home, April 4th, 2015. It was 4-1
It's the
to
Ozil free
Arsenal.
kick. I remember that
Yeah,
goal.
yeah. It was 8 minutes of brilliance. We had
Yeah.
Bellerin score one. Ozil had a beautiful free kick. Sanchez did this like little fake run up, but then he had
Oh
this beautiful
yeah.
free kick, and then Sanchez puts another one in later on. But then Bellerin, of course, he gives away a penalty. Henderson gives away a penalty, and then Henderson gets a goal. That was kind of like it was inevitable, and that's why I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't think I'm going to keep a clean sheet in this game. Something's going to happen. It's one of those games that's going to happen. And then finally, Giroud has a goal. He was like he wanted one so bad all match. He was looking for a goal, and then finally gets one at the death. And for me, like this was kind of significant because this is kind of the beginning of the end, really the beginning of like Bancha era, really in my mind when we just could not win against any top six. And earlier in that season, we faced a Liverpool and we lost 5-1. So
Yeah.
this was really that like kind of that payback game in my mind. So that was one of my favorite games. Do you remember that game? What do you remember about it?
It's funny actually because I remember that 8 minutes of brilliance. I really
Yep.
do. And do you know what the funny thing is? I'd say like quote unquote in that banter era, they were still Arsene Wenger's teams.
Yep.
So they could turn it on. And when they did, they still played great football. Yeah, I remember that game. I mean, obviously, you never fucking want to lose 4-1, but it was kind of, I think that was just before Jurgen came in for us. That was kind of like end of year in that previous season. And by the way, that wasn't the worst defeat we had at the end of that season. We also lost 6-1 to Stoke.
Jeez.
So, yeah, that was kind of where we were at that time. It wasn't a particularly good time to support Liverpool. Let's
Uh,
go. Let's go with mine.
yeah, let's
Um,
go with yours.
So the first one I'm gonna pick actually is December 29th, 2018, where Liverpool beat Arsenal 5-1. And it's funny because I remember coming into that game, um, Maitland-Niles scores the opener, and frankly, I just think he pisses us off. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny because like I'd say you had quite a youthful team that day, but I think we were very much on our ascendancy at that period, and that was kind of like a difficult period for Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
So we go 1-0 down. Bobby equalizes. Really scrappy goal to make it 1-1. Salah kind of gets taken out on the box and it kind of bounces conveniently to him and he slots it in. That was his first goal at Anfield that season, Firmino.
Mm.
He scored that. He scored previously at the end of the last season in April, so he hadn't scored for months. So thank
Yeah.
you, Arsenal. Goal two was my favorite goal of the match. And he basically, and this just, I have a smile on my face. Like, it just epitomizes who Firmino is as a football player. He he absolutely twists up Mustafi and Socrates, like
Yeah.
twists them
Yeah.
up and just slides it past Leno, who I think was the goalkeeper on the day.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Goal three was Robertson kind of like plays this long ball over to Salah in the left side channel, and he just like a small deft touch over to Mane. Again, brilliant goal. To be fair, like I did expect to win that game, so probably not to the degree we did, but I did expect to win that game.
I feel like if you were facing up Mustafi and Socrates, you should win
Yeah,
that game.
I mean, he's not the only guy there. Kolasinac was at left back too. Goal four, Allison like plays it really quickly into Bobby, who just plays this really nice kind of like not lofted, but like driven through ball into
Mm-hmm.
Salah within one touch, just changes his angle and he just slots it past to make it 4-1. And then goal five is actually kind of funny because I don't think it was a penalty, by the way,
Yeah.
but Kolasinac like somewhat assaults Lovren from behind, and he gives away a penalty, and we give that to Bobby for his hat trick.
Yeah. Yeah, that yeah, I it's funny when I was looking at our matches and I was like, "Yep, he's going to pick this one. This is definitely going to be the one he picks." I remember that game. End of
That was under
20,
Unai, wasn't it?
that was under Unai. That was
Yeah.
that I think that'd have been Unai's worst loss at Arsenal.
Really?
I think so.
I mean, surely that's
Um
Baku, right?
yeah, yeah. Uh but then that was also, yeah, that was a few months after he came to the club. People were not fully convinced,
Yeah.
and that could have, I mean, it could have been the beginning of the end. Of course, he left almost a year later, but I think like that's where he kind of started losing the team
Yeah.
before he completely lost it later on.
I remember that season actually. Wasn't he on like a crazy unbeaten run to start the season, or was it like
Yeah,
in the middle of the season?
it was in the middle of the season. He brought it back later on.
Yeah, yeah, like and did ended up finishing quite well. And that's when you
Yep,
guys do go to the Europa League, isn't it? That year?
yep, yeah. We
Okay.
go to Europa League that year.
Do you remember that game very well?
The Europa League game or this one, the
This
5
this
1.
one.
I do remember parts of it. I remember when Bobby like ripped our defense apart. That's what I remember the most from it. And then like I have like PTSD for Bobby because of that game. Like that's mainly what it is. I mean,
Was
no,
it?
no. I mean, I had PTSD because that's where it started. Like that was the first shot, and I was like, oh, geez, please don't
Yeah.
have Bobby on the team.
You're completely right too. Let's go with your historical fixture. I know exactly what you'd have picked for this because
Oh
it's
yeah, I mean,
probably the most iconic victory I would say in
yep,
any of the games that we've had.
yeah.
So take it away.
Yeah, historical. And no, I don't remember watching this game because I wasn't born
Yeah,
yet.
neither was I.
But it was the title decider on May 26th, 1989, Arsenal versus Liverpool. It was the 100th anniversary of the Football League, which I actually just found out when I was revisiting this. So it was kind of like a significant game. But it was wild because Arsenal had to win by 2 goals, because if they scored one, we wouldn't have been tied
Yeah,
on points, but we wouldn't have had
you needed it
the
for
goal
goal
difference.
difference.
And
Yeah,
also, even if we had a goal difference, we needed that to win us on goals for. So we would have been tied and tied on goal difference, but we would have had
drama.
more goals for. It was insane. And so I think in the game, it's kind of a scrap. It's, I mean, when you if you are able to rewatch the highlights, it's kind of fun to just see like football back in the day
Is
and
that George
how they
Graham's
played it.
Arsenal? It must have been, right?
But yes, it was Richard Graham Arsenal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always a
Um,
scrap.
yeah. First goal was, hey, it's Arsenal. It's set piece FC, off a set piece from Alan Smith, which was kind of like, it's a muddy pitch. And so
Yeah,
you just expect those set piece goals. Actually, later on, Liverpool had this really great set piece kind of routine, which I thought absolutely had to go in, and it was a save. But I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that set piece routine? They
no,
like they set up like they were going to take a free kick, and it looked like it was something out of like a more modern set piece. They passed it short, then passed it short again into space, and then took a shot. And I was like, why don't we do that more often in football nowadays? But it was a nice little set piece routine from them. And then at the death, Michael Thomas comes in, heads the ball into space, and just like kind of slots it in, and just wild, just freaking wild. And that won us the league that year. It's the last time we won the league in the football league before we became the Premier League.
I'd say like the most significant part of that match is like a Liverpool fan is I believe that match preceded the Hillsborough disaster
Yep.
when Kenny Dalglish, I think he was like caretaker manager or something,
Mm-hmm.
like player manager, sorry, and kind of navigating like an incredibly hard time for the club.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of like the most significant thing about that year for Liverpool. Really, is the Hillsborough disaster.
Well, I mean, that was my historical. What was your historical? And
Good question for me, and this is one of the actually one of the first games that I like vividly remember.
uh-huh.
Liverpool were wearing this gross yellow Reebok kit.
Uh-huh.
They play Arsenal, who are a way better team than us, in the FA Cup in '01. On that day, like Arsenal start with some incredible players. Patrick Vieira, Thierry Henry, Bergkamp was on the bench, kind of back four, like I think Keown was playing then, Dixon would have been there. So
Hmm.
you guys had some really, really good players going into that game. Liverpool were coming off of a very, very good season though. Um, During that season, like in totality, we won 3 trophies that season.
Hmm.
We won the League Cup, FA Cup, and the Europa League, or like UEFA Cup is what it was called back then. So you can imagine, the Liverpool team is quite confident going into that game.
Yeah.
I would say like one of the biggest things I remember from that game, and it's funny because I watched it back earlier as we were talking about this. I remember how scared my dad was about the handball from Omri early on.
Hmm.
Omri finds space like on that right hand side and kind of shoots towards the near post essentially, and it does hit Stefan Henschel's hand, but I don't think it was handball. Could have been, but ultimately it wasn't given. Arsenal score first in that game, and it's like this just it's just a gorgeous slip through ball from Pires to
Hmm.
Freddie Ljungberg. Sando Westerveld plays this really shit pass from the back that essentially just gets intercepted by Pires, but what Pires does to kind of feed it through to Ljungberg is really what makes that goal good. And then probably, I mean, I think he did win the Ballon d'Or that year, didn't he, Michael Owen, 2001? Probably the best player in the world at that time.
Hmm.
Owen like scores a shit scrappy goal off a set piece, and it's 1-1 relatively late in the game. Then a couple of minutes later, like a ball is played over your defense by Patrick Berger, who is a regular starter for us. Didn't start every game, but would come on a lot. I think he came on for Dieter Hamann in that game. Plays a ball just over the top, literally just one touch past Lee Dixon, bottom corner. Michael Owen just supremely confident, like supremely confident. And then Owen scores a brace basically in 5 minutes to win us the FA Cup. Remarkable game, and like I said, it's one of the first games like I truly vividly remember. So it has a pretty significant kind of role to play in my football life.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I don't think I've watched back that entire game. I think I've watched highlights, obviously, but I think I might need to have to watch that through.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You should watch that game. That's kind of everything from us today, guys. We will be coming out with a pub diaries kind of after this game, so expect another upload later this week. Anything else from you, Ben, before we sign off?
No, I'm very excited for this week. Looking forward for this match. And we will see you all on the other side.
See you guys.